All right, so we're going from the Giants to the Jets. I'm a Giants fan, so I think that the Jets are a hilarious team. Obviously, not as good as the Giants in any way, shape, or form, and you could never convince me otherwise. So let's see what we've got going on this year. Excuse me, last year. So they went 7-9 last year. They went 7-9 last year, which was pretty good considering they're a sham of an organization and a complete joke and horrible. Um, but 7-9 was pretty good. They had some issues with Sam Darnold and mononucleosis and things of that nature. Tom Brady leaving is great for them. Cam Newton coming is probably bad for them. Imagine if Cam Newton is just like better than Tom Brady was last year. Just think about that for a second. That's in the realm of possibilities. They play against the AFC West and the NFC West, so you're gonna get the Chiefs, which means at least one game you'll have a gigantic shootout. Hopefully a shootout. It might just be a stomp. And then the NFC West, which isn't so bad for fantasy. Let's see. What are the Jets? The Jets are plus 8,000 to win the Super Bowl. That seems about right. Probably a good number to put money on. Um, because if they start the season strong, it's going to plummet. Uh, I'm not sure what their roster looks like, but I think it's pretty good. The Jets over under is 6.5. The over is probably the right way to go. Probably the right way to go. So let's take a look at their roster. Quincy Enunwa had a lot of injury problems, but he's a good player overall. Leonard Williams is now a Giant. Ty Montgomery was a good player overall. I liked him a lot when he was on the Packers, but he had some injury problems as well. Kenneth Dixon. Robbie Anderson is now on the Panthers. Jamal Anderson leaving to go to the Seahawks. That's a huge loss. So Robbie Anderson leaving is a big problem. And then Jamal Adams being traded away because he questioned the organization is also a bad thing overall. They got Frank Gore, which shouldn't really matter. Joe Flacco shouldn't really matter, but it's a good backup for your chances to win actual football games. Chris Hogan is fighting for a job again. Brashad Perriman is supposedly a number 2 wide receiver for the Jets right now, which is bad. You don't want him to be your number 2. Josh Doctson, he was a big disappointment in Minnesota. Maybe he can turn things around. But that's about it. Let's take a look at the offensive depth chart. Sam Darnold and Joe Flacco. I think Sam Darnold, you can definitely justify picking him in best ball. A lot of people are having a very negative opinion of him, but I think he's fine. Le'Veon Bell is someone that I've drafted a lot. Just a very good player, extremely high talent. Some people think he's annoying. I don't really care. I want him to score fantasy points. Frank Gore is going to play another 5 years. So we'll be able to make those jokes for another 5 years. Jamison Crowder is not a true number 1, but he's a good wide receiver. Brashad Perriman has been a huge disappointment so far in his career, but I don't know. I think he had a couple good weeks last year. He is not the kind of player that I want to draft on any of my fantasy teams or in any of my best ball leagues, unless I absolutely have to. Denzel Mims is a rookie who is supposedly good. I'll see it before I believe it. I'll need to see it in order to believe it. Chris Herndon was very good a few years ago, but he's dealt with a lot of injuries. So, it's tough to be too excited about them. Let's go to the next team. The Philadelphia Eagles. So, like I said, I'm a Giants fan. I don't hate the Eagles as much as most people do. I have a lot of family members who are Eagles fans because I'm from New Jersey, and that just happens. in New Jersey, specifically South New Jersey, or South Jersey, as we like to say. So let's see what happened last year. They went 9-7. Um, this year they play against the NFC West and the AFC North, which I think is fine. The Eagles over/under is 9. I would assume that the over is the better side. But I haven't, like, before every season, I go through every single one and try to figure out who, like, what teams I think will go over, which teams I think will go under, and then kind of, like, make sure that it makes sense. Like, I'm telling the same story throughout all of my picks. So I don't know if I can like the Eagles and the Giants and the Cowboys, because that would be projecting a big turnaround for the division altogether. But after one team had a winning record, one team was 500, and the other two had losing records, I feel like you can only go up. So maybe there's a big turnaround for the NFC East this year. Their odds to win the Super Bowl are plus 1,800. I don't like that number. I would rather get exposure to them in the high 2000s. If I can get them at 3,200, I'd be very happy, but that means a lot went wrong in the early season, so it'll be pretty difficult to do at that point. So let's see what happened with their players. They lost Malcolm Jenkins. That's a big loss. They lost Andrew Sandejo. That's a big loss. I think that their secondary was pretty terrible last year, but I think it was mostly because of the cornerbacks, not the safeties. Nelson Aguilar is gone. Ronald Darby is gone. I think Darby got torched a lot last year, right? There's somebody else. There's somebody on their roster still who I think got torched a lot. Vinny Curry is a pretty good player. Marquise Goodwin is probably not going to see the field, I would think. But good best ball upside. That's an interesting pick for best ball. Darius Slay is a very good cornerback. Nickel Roby, I'm not sure. I think he's good, though, from what I remember. Duke Riley. Avery, Caleb Wilson. Not much else there. So it's really going to come down to, like, can they not get hurt this year? Carson Wentz is a good player. Miles Sanders is a good player. I think he's getting drafted too high. I think that means that there is value somewhere else in their backfield. I don't know who it's going to be. None of the other running backs on the Eagles really have the upside that Miles Sanders has. I have Miles Sanders in Dynasty, so I'm very happy about that. I'm in a league with a bunch of people from Philadelphia, so I will probably be able to get a king's ransom for Miles Sanders at some point, but I'm going to hold on to that for as long as I can. Alshon Jeffrey is one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. Well, maybe not talented, but he's one of the better wide receivers in the NFL. He just gets hurt a lot. Jalen Reagor is a rookie that a lot of people are high on. I don't know anything about him, so I just have to be skeptical. Deshaun Jackson is a very good best ball wide receiver. He can be the highest scoring player any week, and he has like the 80-yard touchdown upside, which not every player can really pull off. I mean, most players can, but yeah, he's like one of the quintessential players who can do that. Marquise Goodwin, I guess, has that same upside. So that's interesting. Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert are both going to get drafted in basically every league. I'm just watching some League of Legends. TSM's throwing the game extremely hard, which is very tilting. But doesn't really matter for me personally. So that's it for the Eagles. I think that they had a lot of big losses from a personnel standpoint, but their injury luck has to be better this year. So I'm not too concerned with that. All right, that's all I got for those two teams. Moving on.